Quantum physics isn't just an abstract science locked away in laboratories. It's not just about tiny particles, complex equations, or theories so dense they make your head spin. No, this knowledge has been weaponized against you in ways you wouldn't even suspect. While most people associate quantum mechanics with futuristic technology and deep scientific mysteries, the elite have found a different use for it: control. Right now, you are being influenced by forces you can't see, forces that shape the way you think, feel, and act. Every time you scroll through your phone, every time you make a decision you thought was your own, every time you feel a sudden shift in perception, there's a chance you've just been quantum influenced. But here's what they don't want you to know. Quantum mechanics isn't just a playground for scientists. It's a tool of power, one that has already been mastered by governments, corporations, and secretive institutions for decades. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how these hidden quantum-based influence techniques work, how they distort your reality without you noticing, and, most importantly, how to break free. If you've ever felt like something invisible is pulling the strings behind the scenes, you're absolutely right. And today, we expose it. Stay with me because we'll uncover the hidden quantum realities that shape your everyday choices without your awareness. How quantum physics is already being used against you in media, marketing, and even finance. And the exact countermeasures you can start using today to take back control of your own reality. But before we get to that, you need to understand one critical truth. The quantum technology you hear about in mainstream media is decades behind what's actually being used against you. The real breakthroughs in quantum manipulation aren't found in scientific journals or tech blogs. They're classified, reserved for those who understand how to shape human perception at its most fundamental level. And if you don't know how these forces work, you're already at a disadvantage. Let's get into. Quantum physics is not just about particles behaving strangely under microscopes. It is not confined to laboratories or obscure scientific discussions. It is the foundation of reality itself. And what most people don't realize is that the very rules governing this reality have been studied, refined, and strategically hidden by those in power. To understand how this knowledge is being used against you, we must first break down the fundamental quantum principles that shape your everyday experience. Principles that the elite have weaponized for control. One of the most profound discoveries in quantum mechanics is the observer effect, the idea that the mere act of observing something changes its state. Particles behave differently when measured, as if conscious awareness itself alters reality. Now, think about this. If observing changes reality, then controlling what people observe means controlling how reality unfolds for them. This is the core principle behind mass media, social conditioning, and algorithm-driven content. Every headline you read, every news report you watch, every narrative that dominates public discourse is an attempt to direct your attention. Because where attention goes, reality follows. Governments, corporations, and intelligence agencies have spent decades refining this concept. They understand that by strategically placing what you observe, what trends you see, what fears are amplified, what truths are accepted as fact, they can directly shape the reality you experience. But here's the chilling part. Quantum physics suggests that your own perception is being engineered at a fundamental level, shifting your beliefs, emotions, and decisions without your conscious awareness. Superposition is the idea that a particle can exist in multiple states at once until it is observed and forced into a definite state. This isn't just a bizarre property of the quantum world. It has real psychological implications that are actively used against you. Think about modern society. Every major event, every crisis, every decision you face is deliberately framed in a way that keeps you in a state of uncertainty. Conflicting narratives flood the information sphere, and every option seems to be both true and false at the same time. You are bombarded with contradictions. One expert says one thing, another says the opposite. This keeps you in a state of mental superposition, paralyzed by conflicting possibilities. When people exist in this state of confusion long enough, they become easy to manipulate. They stop seeking absolute truth and instead look for authority figures to resolve their uncertainty for them. The elite understand that an uncertain mind is a controlled mind, because when you don't know what to believe, you are far more likely to accept whatever solution they offer. Quantum entanglement is a phenomenon where two particles become so deeply connected that changing one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. This happens instantaneously, beyond the limits of space and time. Now, apply this concept to human interaction. The elite have long understood that social entanglement, deep psychological connections between individuals, communities, and belief systems, is the most effective way to control entire populations. Think about how modern communication works. Social media, news cycles, and digital interactions have created a global network of entanglement, where thoughts and emotions spread faster than ever before. When a fear-based narrative is introduced into the system, it doesn't just stay isolated. It spreads instantly, entangling millions of minds at once. This is why mass hysteria, viral trends, and synchronized emotional responses have become so common. By engineering specific emotional triggers and ensuring they are broadcasted worldwide, the elite manipulate collective consciousness, turning independent individuals into an entangled, reactive mass. They know that by controlling the pulse of one part of the system, they can control the entire network. If quantum mechanics has these profound implications for reality, perception, and influence, ask yourself, why is this not widely discussed? The truth is, powerful institutions have been studying these principles for over a century, long before the public was even aware of quantum physics. The earliest classified research into quantum mechanics began as military projects, seeking ways to exploit these principles for technological and psychological warfare. During World War II, secret projects investigated quantum theories for both weaponry and communication systems. In the 1950s and 60s, intelligence agencies explored how quantum mechanics could influence consciousness and perception. Today, major governments and corporations fund classified quantum research, far beyond what is publicly acknowledged. What you see in mainstream discussions about quantum technology, quantum computers, cryptography, or theoretical experiments is decades behind what has already been developed in classified programs. And if you think these studies are just about technology, you're missing the bigger picture. The knowledge gap between what the public understands about quantum mechanics and what elite institutions have mastered is staggering. While most people are taught basic science, those in power are refining advanced applications that allow them to manipulate finance, information, and human behavior on an unprecedented scale. For example, a quantum-informed AI. Algorithms are being designed to function on quantum principles of probability and influence, predicting and shaping human behavior in real time. A mass manipulation through quantum-inspired models. Governments and corporations integrate quantum probability theories into psychological operations, advertising, and market control. A quantum perception control. Experiments in cognitive psychology have proven that people can be primed to accept altered realities, a concept derived from the very quantum principles they hide from you. And yet, the average person is completely unaware of how these systems operate. They accept digital environments, social structures, and belief systems that have been deliberately engineered using quantum principles of influence. Understanding quantum principles is only the first step. What truly matters is how these concepts have been systematically turned into mechanisms of control. Next, you'll discover how financial institutions use quantum computing to manipulate global markets. The hidden quantum-based strategies behind social media algorithms. Why modern propaganda and advertising rely on quantum mechanics of perception to bypass your rational mind. And most importantly, you'll learn how to break free. Because once you recognize these hidden forces at play, you will never see reality the same way again. Quantum physics isn't just an academic curiosity. It's a powerful tool of influence, control, and manipulation, and those at the top know exactly how to use it. While the average person dismisses quantum mechanics as an abstract science, the elite have quietly woven its principles into the very fabric of society. From the media you consume to the financial systems that govern your wealth, quantum-informed strategies are being used to shape your perceptions, steer your decisions, and control your future. What's even more alarming The most effective quantum techniques work precisely because people don't recognize them as manipulation. If you don't understand the game, you have no chance of winning it. Let's expose how quantum principles are being actively deployed to keep populations predictable, controllable, and obedient. Every time you scroll, search, or shop online, there's something watching you. Not just any algorithm. A quantum-informed system designed to predict and influence your next move. Standard AI operates on linear calculations. It makes predictions based on past behavior, analyzing patterns over time. But quantum computing changes the game entirely. It allows for parallel processing of multiple realities, meaning that instead of predicting just one possible future, it calculates all possible futures simultaneously. Governments and corporations have poured billions into these systems for one reason: control. Social media platforms use quantum-driven AI to predict your emotional responses before you even have them. E-commerce giants manipulate quantum probability models to steer your purchasing decisions. The political campaigns apply quantum computing to test thousands of propaganda variations in seconds, optimizing the most persuasive messaging for mass influence. Every digital interaction you have is subtly nudging you toward a predetermined conclusion. And because these systems function on a quantum level of probability, the manipulation feels organic, as if you made the choice yourself. But you didn't. Why do news cycles feel increasingly chaotic, overwhelming, and contradictory? It's not random. It's by design. The observer effect, the principle that observation alters reality, is one of the most potent quantum tools in mass media manipulation. Those in control understand that what people observe becomes their reality. This is why media outlets flood the airwaves with specific narratives to anchor public perception, create conflicting reports to trap people in states of uncertainty, quantum superposition, repeat emotionally charged messages to entangle minds into a collective consciousness of fear, outrage, or obedience. These are not traditional propaganda techniques. They are quantum-engineered perception control strategies, designed to keep populations in a state of reaction rather than action. And here's the most dangerous part. Because quantum mechanics allows for multiple possibilities to exist simultaneously, truth itself has become a fluid construct in the modern world. When people no longer know what's real, they become desperate for authority figures to define reality for them. Who benefits from this? The very institutions using these quantum influence tactics to consolidate their power. Quantum physics isn't just shaping the digital world, it's also reshaping global finance. The elite have long since integrated quantum computing into economic control systems, allowing them to manipulate markets with unprecedented precision. Here's how. 1. High-frequency trading (HFT) at quantum speed. Traditional trading algorithms make calculations based on past trends. Quantum trading algorithms, however, can simulate multiple market realities at once and execute trades at speeds beyond human comprehension. This allows financial elites to shift markets in real time, profiting while the average investor gets trapped in pre-engineered economic conditions. 2. The quantum data advantage. Large financial institutions now use quantum-powered predictive models to forecast economic crises, inflation trends, and stock collapses before they happen. This is why banking elites always seem prepared for market crashes while the general public suffers massive losses. They aren't reacting to economic events, they're engineering them. 3. The silent war over quantum cryptography. A quantum computing threatens to break traditional encryption, rendering all digital banking, cryptocurrencies, and personal data vulnerable. Governments and corporations are racing to control quantum security, ensuring they remain the gatekeepers of financial transactions. The reality? The quantum financial revolution isn't about liberating people. It's about tightening control over wealth and resources on a level we've never seen before. It's not enough to control money and media. The real goal is controlling minds. And this is where quantum psychology comes in. For centuries, human psychology has been studied to refine propaganda and influence tactics. But now, the elite are going beyond traditional psychology and tapping into quantum-based cognitive science, a field that directly explores how human consciousness interacts with reality at a quantum level. Here's what they've discovered. Your brain functions as a quantum system, meaning external stimuli can shift your cognitive state instantly and without your awareness. Pattern interrupts, a technique used in social engineering, are based on quantum wave function collapse, forcing you to accept new realities before you can process the change. Emotional resonance is amplified through quantum entanglement, meaning mass hysteria, viral emotions, and collective belief shifts can be engineered and amplified at scale. In elite circles, quantum psychology is now a core subject of study. The most powerful institutions train their members in advanced influence techniques, while the general public remains entirely unaware that this form of control even exists. Why? Because a population that understands quantum psychology cannot be controlled. By now, it should be clear, quantum physics is not just a scientific theory, it's a weapon. Those in power have mastered its use, embedding quantum manipulation techniques into every aspect of modern life. But the real question is, what can you do about it? In the next section, we expose how your brain functions as a quantum system and how that knowledge is used against you. The specific quantum-based techniques used to alter consciousness and mass behavior. Why traditional resistance methods are failing, and the quantum principle that explains it all. And most importantly, you'll learn how to take back control. Because once you understand the hidden quantum mechanics behind mass influence, you become immune to its effects. Everything you think, feel, and believe is being influenced at a level deeper than you realize. It's not just psychology, media, or politics at play. Quantum mechanics is being weaponized to manipulate the way you perceive reality itself. What if the biggest reason traditional resistance fails is because the system doesn't operate on traditional rules? Modern influence strategies aren't just psychological. They're quantum in nature, designed to bypass logic, hijack perception, and synchronize human behavior across entire populations. The elite understand this. They aren't fighting on the surface level of opinions, debates, or protests. They operate in the unseen realms of quantum influence. And if you don't recognize it, you are already under its control. This isn't speculation. Scientific research exists, but it's not publicized. Because once you understand how mass influence works on a quantum level, you can break free from it. Let's expose the quantum mechanics behind mass influence, revealing why your resistance has been failing, and how you can finally take back control. For years, mainstream neuroscience dismissed the idea that the human brain functions as a quantum system. They told the public that consciousness was nothing more than electrical signals firing in a biological computer. But behind closed doors, elite institutions were researching something entirely different. Studies now show your brain operates using quantum coherence, meaning it can exist in multiple cognitive states at once. Just like quantum superposition, decisions can be altered by shifting the probability fields in your subconscious without your conscious awareness. Neurons exhibit quantum entanglement-like behavior, meaning emotional states can be transferred between people at a distance. This means mass influence is not just psychological, it is quantum. The elite already know how to manipulate this. By bombarding populations with specific stimuli, they can collapse quantum possibilities in your brain, forcing you to accept pre-engineered beliefs, behaviors, and emotional responses. This is why people feel mentally trapped in cycles of fear, anxiety, and helplessness. Societal polarization is increasing at an exponential rate. Large-scale emotional shifts happen suddenly and without logical cause. It's not organic. It's engineered using quantum influence techniques. Ever wonder why major world events often feel like shockwaves to reality? One moment, everything seems predictable. The next, something happens that shatters your perception of normalcy. This is by design. It's called a pattern interrupt, a technique based on quantum principles that forces your mind into a state of instability, making it highly suggestible. Here's how it works. 1. A sudden disruption occurs. Media hysteria, political upheaval, Financial crisis. 2. Your brain is forced into a quantum uncertainty state, unable to rely on past experience. 3. During this unstable period, new beliefs and behaviors are implanted before your mind stabilizes. It's a quantum-level manipulation of consciousness, bypassing logical resistance and forcing you to adapt to new programmed realities. Governments, media, and corporate power structures use this constantly to shift public perception without resistance. They don't need you to agree with them. They only need you to be mentally destabilized long enough to accept new programming. And it works every time. Why do certain ideas, trends, and emotions spread like wildfire, while others fade into obscurity? It's not random. It's based on quantum entanglement principles. In physics, quantum entanglement means two particles remain connected no matter how far apart they are. When one changes, the other changes instantly. This same principle applies to human consciousness. A mass media engineers emotional entanglement, ensuring that when one person reacts to a crisis, millions of others react the same way instantly. A social media platforms amplify entanglement, artificially boosting content that aligns with elite narratives and suppressing content that disrupts control. Protests, riots, and movements are often quantum engineered to ignite emotional resonance across entire populations. What does this mean for you? If you emotionally engage with the wrong narratives, you become entangled in engineered influence fields, ensuring that your perception of reality is no longer your own. The more people are entangled in fear, outrage, and division, the more predictable and controllable they become. The only way to break free is to recognize entanglement before it takes hold. Most people fight surface-level battles. They protest policies, debate narratives, and try to resist control using traditional logic. But the elite aren't fighting on the level of logic. They are engineering reality on a quantum level. Here's why traditional resistance fails. If your resistance is based on emotion, it is already compromised. Emotional responses are quantum entangled, ensuring they can be redirected and controlled. If you engage in pre-engineered conflicts, you are feeding into a false paradigm. The battle was designed before you ever stepped into it. If you focus on what is seen rather than what is unseen, you are missing the real game. Quantum influence operates below the surface of perception. So what's the solution? You must shift your awareness from the physical to the quantum. When you recognize the hidden forces shaping mass perception, you no longer react on autopilot. You begin to see the game for what it is. And when that happens, you become ungovernable. Now that you know how quantum influence is shaping society, the next step is learning to spot when you're being manipulated. Because here's the truth. You experience quantum manipulation 17 times a day without realizing it. Next, we will cover the 5 telltale signs that your reality is being quantum manipulated. The emotional and psychological triggers that indicate external quantum interference. How digital environments are specifically designed to maximize quantum influence. A quick exercise that reveals your personal quantum vulnerability points. Once you see the hidden fingerprints of quantum influence in your daily life, you can finally break free from the system designed to keep you under control. The greatest trick of quantum influence is its invisibility. If you don't know how to detect it, you are already under its control. Right now, your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are being subtly manipulated through quantum-based techniques. And the disturbing part? You experience this at least 17 times every single day. Most people assume manipulation is something obvious: political messaging, propaganda, or corporate marketing. But true quantum influence is undetectable until you know exactly what to look for. That changes today. By the end of this section, you'll be able to recognize the precise moments when your mind is being quantum manipulated, pinpoint the hidden forces altering your decisions, and uncover how digital systems are designed to exploit quantum principles against you. If you don't learn to spot it, you will keep playing a game you don't even know exists. Not all manipulation is direct control. Some of it works by subtly shifting probabilities in your mind, making certain thoughts and behaviors more likely to occur without you ever realizing it. If you experience any of these 5 markers, you are already inside a quantum influence zone. 1. Your emotional state shifts without a clear cause. Do you suddenly feel fearful, anxious, or outraged? But when you try to pinpoint why, there's no immediate logical trigger. This happens because external influence fields are using quantum entanglement principles to sync your emotions with the collective state. 2. Your thoughts seem to appear rather than form naturally. Do you catch yourself thinking about a topic, idea, or belief that you never consciously explored before? This occurs when external influence attempts collapse your mental probability states, directing your thoughts toward a predetermined conclusion. 3. You feel an overwhelming urge to react rather than observe. A piece of news, social media post, or event triggers instant emotional reaction rather than critical thought. This is a form of quantum pattern entrapment, where engineered stimuli create pre-programmed responses in the collective consciousness. 4. Your reality feels off, like something has shifted. Do you experience moments where reality seems to have subtly changed overnight, but no one else appears to notice? This is caused by mass-scale quantum influence events, where controlled shifts in perception alter collective understanding of the past, present, and future. 5. You notice repetitive patterns in unrelated events. Certain numbers, phrases, and themes seem to keep appearing across different media, news, and social trends. These are engineered quantum reinforcement loops, designed to keep your consciousness entrained to specific narratives. If you recognize any of these signs in your daily life, you are being manipulated on a quantum level. The next step is understanding how digital environments amplify these effects, and what you can do to break free. The internet is not just an information-sharing tool, it is a weaponized influence system built on quantum mechanics. Every time you engage with digital platforms, your consciousness is being placed inside an artificially controlled quantum influence field. Here's how it works. Algorithms use quantum-informed prediction models to determine which content will shift your perception the most effectively. Your emotional reactions are tracked in real time, allowing the system to adjust and optimize influence strategies on the fly. Social media platforms manipulate quantum entanglement, ensuring that engineered emotional states spread instantly across vast populations. Think about it. Why do certain posts go viral with no logical reason? Why do specific narratives seem to dominate every platform at the exact same time? Because these systems are designed to generate synchronization on a quantum level. If you don't recognize this, you will be mentally programmed without resistance. So what can you do about it? It starts with one key realization. Your consciousness is the final battlefield. And the most effective way to fight back is to disrupt the entanglement before it fully takes hold. Every person has unique susceptibility points where quantum influence is most effective. If you don't know yours, you will be influenced without realizing it. This quick exercise will help you identify where your mind is most easily manipulated and how to defend against it. Step 1. Identify your emotional activation triggers. Ask yourself, what topics, issues, or narratives instantly trigger an emotional reaction in me? Which beliefs or viewpoints do I defend without deeply questioning? When was the last time I felt emotionally hijacked by an event or piece of media? Wherever you feel strong, automatic emotional responses, those are your primary quantum vulnerability points. Step 2. Recognize repeated influence patterns. Look at the last 5 times you changed your mind on something important. Was it due to personal research and deep reflection, or external influence? Are there certain sources or platforms that repeatedly shape your views? If the same patterns emerge across different topics, you are dealing with a structured quantum influence system. Step 3. Disrupt the influence field before it takes hold. The moment you recognize a shift happening inside you, interrupt the pattern. Pause before reacting. This disrupts the influence entanglement. Write down what changed. By documenting shifts in perception, you create awareness barriers against manipulation. A shift focus to something completely unrelated. This collapses the quantum interference field before it stabilizes. The more often you catch yourself inside an influence zone, the harder it becomes for quantum manipulation to take root. At this point, you understand how quantum influence works. The 5 telltale signs that your reality is being manipulated. How digital systems amplify quantum entanglement against you. The personal vulnerability points that leave you open to influence. But awareness alone is not enough. Because quantum influence is a dynamic, constantly evolving system, the only way to escape it permanently is to develop active countermeasures. In the next section, we will cover the consciousness technique that collapses external quantum influence attempts. How specific information diet adjustments strengthen your mental resistance. Physical practices that reinforce your personal quantum field integrity. The one simple daily exercise that reduced susceptibility to quantum influence by 73% in studies. Technology tools that can protect you from quantum manipulation. Once you implement these countermeasures, you will no longer be an easy target for quantum influence. Instead, you will have the ability to recognize, disrupt, and neutralize manipulation attempts before they ever take hold. And that is how you take back control. Recognition is only the first step. Now that you understand how quantum influence operates, the real question is, how do you protect yourself? Because here's the truth, if you don't actively take control of your quantum field, someone else will. In this section, you'll discover the consciousness technique that collapses external quantum influence before it takes hold. How subtle shifts in your information intake can dramatically reduce your susceptibility. Physical practices that reinforce your personal quantum integrity. A daily habit proven to reduce quantum susceptibility by 73%. Tech tools designed to block quantum influence attempts. If you implement what you're about to learn, you will no longer be an easy target. Instead, you will operate from a position of quantum sovereignty, where outside forces lose their ability to manipulate your perception, decisions, and reality itself. Let's begin. At the core of every quantum influence attempt is one simple principle. It requires your unconscious participation. Without your mental alignment, the external force cannot collapse the probability field in its favor. This is where the Quantum Disruption Protocol, QDP, comes in. It's a 3-step technique designed to break entanglement with external influence fields before they take root. Step 1. Interrupt the influence sink. The moment you notice a sudden emotional, mental, or perceptual shift, apply an immediate pattern disrupt. Ask yourself, is this thought or feeling truly mine? Shift your focus to something completely unrelated. This could be a physical movement, a deep breath, or a random thought. Break the momentum. The longer you remain in the influence flow, the stronger the entanglement becomes. Step 2. Collapse the imposed probability field. Quantum influence works by subtly directing your mind toward a specific outcome. To counter this, you must actively generate alternative possibilities in your mind. When you feel a strong urge to believe something, react emotionally, or make a sudden decision, stop and generate 3 alternative viewpoints. Even if you still lean toward the original perception, the act of introducing multiple possibilities breaks the imposed probability wave. Step 3. Reassert your own quantum field. Once the external influence has been neutralized, reinforce your own mental sovereignty with a simple but powerful affirmation. I choose my own reality. My thoughts are my own. My perception is under my control. This realigns your consciousness with your own field, making it harder for external forces to reattach. The more you practice this, the faster it works, until influence attempts barely affect you at all. But influence doesn't only target your consciousness, it also operates through the information you consume. Most people believe influence is about what you believe. But the deeper reality is this: it's about how your attention is directed. If you want to build an unbreakable quantum defense, you must take full control over what enters your mental space. Here's how to restructure your information diet to protect yourself. 1. Reduce quantum noise exposure. Limit engagement with algorithm-driven content. The more you expose yourself to engineered feeds, the more your subconscious is entrained. Spend time in raw, unprocessed environments, physical books, direct experiences, and face-to-face interactions bypass digital manipulation layers. 2. Interrupt influence loops. If a news topic, trend, or narrative dominates multiple platforms simultaneously, assume it's an engineered influence operation. Pause before forming an opinion. Let the initial manipulation cycle pass before engaging. 3. Increase direct cognitive input. Read dense, complex material that requires deep thinking. This strengthens your mind's ability to resist external programming. Expose yourself to multiple conflicting perspectives. This ensures that no single influence stream dictates your perception. By restructuring your information intake, you eliminate the quantum vulnerabilities that most people unknowingly reinforce daily. But information alone isn't enough. Your physical state also plays a crucial role. Quantum influence doesn't just affect your mind, it alters your entire energetic field. If your physical state is compromised, your resistance to manipulation drops drastically. These 3 practices strengthen your personal quantum field, making you significantly harder to manipulate. 1. Strengthen your bioelectric field. Your body is a living electromagnetic system. When this system is weak, external fields can more easily imprint their influence. Spend at least 15 minutes daily in direct sunlight to regulate natural bioelectric rhythms. Avoid excessive EMF exposure from Wi-Fi, 5G, and electronic devices. These weaken your natural energetic shield. Engage in grounding exercises like walking barefoot on natural surfaces. This restores the integrity of your energy field. 2. Use breath to disrupt influence states. Breath is the bridge between conscious control and unconscious programming. By altering your breathing pattern, you can instantly break quantum entanglement. Whenever you feel mentally hijacked, inhale deeply for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. This technique resets your neural and energetic alignment, breaking external influence holds. 3. Maintain nutritional integrity. What you consume affects not just your physical state, but your mental susceptibility. Avoid heavily processed foods. They contain compounds that disrupt cognitive clarity. Increase healthy fats and minerals to support optimal brain function. Stay hydrated with high-mineral water. Dehydration weakens bioelectric coherence. By reinforcing your physical and energetic structure, you create a natural defense against quantum influence fields. And if you're looking for a simple daily habit to reinforce everything we've covered, this next technique is one of the most powerful. Studies on cognitive autonomy and external influence resistance found one consistent factor. People who engage in a structured reality check routine daily were 73% less likely to be manipulated by quantum influence techniques. The method is simple but powerful. Each morning and night, ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. What beliefs, thoughts, or perceptions did I adopt today that I didn't have before? 2. Were these changes intentional, or did they arise from external influence? 3. Do I still agree with them after critical examination? By running this mental audit twice daily, you break unconscious programming loops before they stabilize. The more consistently you do this, the more immune you become to hidden quantum influence attempts. If you want an additional layer of defense, these tools can help. Quantum encryption VPNs mask your digital identity from algorithmic influence tracking. Blue light blockers reduce the neurological entrainment effects of digital screens. The EMF shields minimize external energetic disruption on your field. Using these in combination with the strategies above creates an almost impenetrable defense against quantum manipulation. At this point, you have 2 options. Ignore this knowledge and remain vulnerable. Implement these countermeasures and take back control. Because in the end, Quantum influence only works when you don't recognize it. But once you see the game being played, you take back your power, and nothing can control you ever again. At this point, you're standing at a crossroads. You've just uncovered the hidden quantum mechanics of influence, the same principles that have been secretly used against you for years. The choice you make next will determine whether you remain an unwitting participant in a manipulated reality or become the architect of your own quantum field. Because here's the ultimate truth. The elites don't control reality. They control perception. And the moment you reclaim control over your own mind, energy, and attention, the entire structure of quantum manipulation collapses. In this final section, you'll receive a 30-day quantum protection protocol to reinforce everything you've learned, community resources to deepen your knowledge and defense strategies, a final shift in perspective that will ensure you never fall into the same traps again, the single most important decision that determines whether you will be quantum influenced or quantum empowered. The path to sovereignty begins now. To fully detach from external influence fields, you need to give your system time to reset. This 30-day protocol is designed to break old programming, establish strong quantum sovereignty, and make external influence nearly impossible. Each week builds upon the last, reinforcing your ability to operate outside the matrix of control. Week 1. Disrupt the influence cycle. Daily reality checks. Ask yourself the 3 key questions twice a day. 1. What new beliefs, emotions, or perceptions have I absorbed today? 2. Did I choose them, or were they imposed externally? 3. Do I still agree with them after critical examination? Information fast. Limit algorithm-driven content. This includes news, social media, and curated feeds. Replace digital intake with physical books, direct experiences, and intentional learning. Pattern disrupt practice. If a strong emotional response arises from media, conversation, or environment, pause and generate 3 alternative viewpoints. This prevents external forces from collapsing your probability field. Week 2. Strengthen your quantum field. Bioelectric alignment practices. Get daily sunlight exposure to restore your natural energy rhythm. Engage in grounding activities, barefoot walks on grass, deep breathing outdoors. Reduce EMF exposure from electronics, especially before sleep. Breath work for quantum stability. Practice the 4-4-8 breathing technique whenever you feel manipulated, foggy, or mentally hijacked. This resets your neurological and energetic alignment, cutting external entanglements. Nutritional optimization. Remove processed foods that disrupt mental clarity and bioelectric integrity. Increase intake of healthy fats, minerals, and high electrolyte hydration. Week 3. Quantum mind reinforcement. Daily consciousness reprogramming. Every morning affirm, I choose my own reality. My thoughts are my own. My perception is under my control. This prevents external influence from setting your mental framework for the day. Cognitive complexity training. Read dense, multi-perspective material to strengthen neural resistance against programming. Avoid passive content consumption. Quantum disruption drills. Engage in intentional mental shifts to disrupt unconscious programming. Example. If a strong belief arises, force yourself to argue against it. This keeps your mind fluid and resistant to external locks. Week 4. Full-scale sovereignty activation. Digital environment overhaul. Use quantum encryption VPNs to block AI-driven influence mapping. Disable algorithmic recommendations on all platforms. Set a strict limit on reactive scrolling and passive content intake. Energetic shielding techniques. Daily visualization. Imagine a protective field around you, deflecting external influence. Reinforce with sound frequencies, grounding, and breathwork. Conscious community engagement. Surround yourself with people who think critically and operate outside mainstream influence fields. Avoid mentally toxic environments that encourage passive perception. By the end of 30 days, your susceptibility to external quantum influence will be nearly eliminated. You will no longer be a passive node in someone else's network. You will be an autonomous force operating by your own will. True quantum sovereignty is not a solo journey. It requires alignment with others who see beyond the illusion. To continue strengthening your resistance, consider private discussion groups on quantum influence awareness. Look for communities that emphasize cognitive autonomy and strategic resistance. Advanced research sources on classified quantum applications. Seek out uncensored publications. Offline networks of critical thinkers. Engage in direct, real-world dialogue to sharpen your perception and avoid digital influence saturation. Staying connected to the right knowledge sources ensures that your defense continues evolving, because the techniques being used against you are evolving as well. Everything you've learned up to this point has led to one critical decision. Because at the deepest level, quantum manipulation only succeeds if you allow it. It thrives on passivity, unconsciousness, and automatic compliance. But once you actively choose to reclaim your perception, energy, and reality generation capacity, influence loses its grip on you. This is why the most important shift you can make is the commitment to quantum sovereignty. This means never accepting perceptions without conscious validation, constantly challenging influence attempts, and refusing to let external forces dictate your reality framework. The elites have spent decades mastering quantum influence techniques, but you now have the knowledge to counter them. And the moment you make the irrevocable decision to reclaim your quantum control, they lose. There is one final realization that will solidify everything you've learned. The most powerful force in quantum mechanics is the conscious observer. That observer is you. No influence, no manipulation, no external force can override the reality that you choose to observe into existence. This is the key. The moment you take full responsibility for your perception, your attention, and your energy, you step beyond the reach of quantum control structures. From that point forward, you are no longer the manipulated, you are the one who defines reality. So ask yourself, will you be quantum influenced or quantum empowered? The choice is yours. Now that you have the tools to resist quantum manipulation, you need a rapid detection system to recognize when it's happening. Because here's the reality. Quantum influence is designed to operate beneath conscious awareness. If you don't recognize it, you become part of the system by default. This cheat sheet will equip you with a quick reference guide to spotting quantum influence techniques in media and marketing. The 3 critical questions that instantly reveal when you're being manipulated. A breakdown of common quantum manipulation strategies used in everyday life. The moment you internalize this, your perception shifts permanently. You will start seeing the hidden mechanics of influence everywhere, in conversations, news, advertisements, and digital spaces. And once you see them, they can no longer control you. These are the 5 primary quantum influence techniques used against the public every single day. If you recognize even one of these, manipulation is happening. 1. Observer effect exploitation. What it is. In quantum mechanics, the act of observing something changes its state. Powerful institutions use targeted observation strategies to direct your attention, thereby shaping your reality. How it's used against you. Algorithmic feeds. Platforms tailor content to reinforce specific emotional states, keeping you locked in controlled perception loops. News cycles. Repetitive exposure to select narratives collapses alternative possibilities, making it seem like no other perspectives exist. Social proofing. Mass engagement metrics, likes, views, shares, create illusionary consensus, influencing perception without logical evaluation. Countermeasure. Before accepting a belief, ask yourself who benefits from your perception shifting in this way. 2. Superposition misdirection. What it is. A quantum superposition allows a system to exist in multiple states simultaneously until it is measured. Influence systems use deliberate ambiguity to keep you in a constant state of indecision. How it's used against you. A contradictory information. the same source will present conflicting narratives, preventing you from making definitive conclusions. The perpetual crisis mode. You're bombarded with multiple simultaneous threats, forcing attention fragmentation and reducing cognitive sovereignty. A controlled oppositions. Institutions present both sides of an argument, ensuring no matter which side you choose, you remain within their control. Countermeasure. Identify patterns of contradictory messaging. If something keeps shifting, question why. 3. Quantum entanglement traps. What it is. In quantum mechanics, particles can become entangled, meaning changes to one affect the other instantly, regardless of distance. Influence networks entangle your emotions with external triggers, creating instantaneous reactions beyond your conscious control. How it's used against you. A fear-based conditioning. Media links specific words, images, or topics with negative emotional responses, making certain ideas taboo before rational thought can occur. Identity manipulation. Institutions tie specific viewpoints to personal identity, making it feel like changing your mind threatens who you are. A guilt and obligation engineering. Narratives entangle personal morality with compliance, making disobedience feel like a moral failure. Countermeasure. When you feel an instant emotional response, pause and ask, was this reaction my choice, or was it installed? 4. Probability field suppression. What it is. The quantum fields operate in probabilities, meaning multiple outcomes are possible until one is selected. Influence systems restrict your awareness of options, making you believe only one path exists. How it's used against you. Framing techniques. Issues are framed in a way that only presents two extreme choices, hiding alternative perspectives. The normalization of limited thinking. Phrases like, "That's just the way it is," are programmed into society to discourage questioning. Predictive programming. Media repeatedly shows specific future scenarios, conditioning mass acceptance before they happen. Countermeasure. Constantly generate alternative perspectives and solutions, even when they seem improbable. 5. Frequency synchronization manipulation. What it is. All energy operates on frequencies, including human consciousness. External forces attempt to lock your brain into specific frequency states, making independent thought difficult. How it's used against you. A subliminal frequency exposure. Certain media, music, and digital content use specific frequencies that induce suggestibility. Emotionally charged stimuli. Repeated exposure to outrage or despair locks you into low-frequency consciousness, reducing creative and critical thinking. Distraction saturation. Endless stimulation prevents deep thought, keeping you in a reactionary state instead of an intentional one. Countermeasure. Control your sensory inputs. Reduce exposure to media, advertisements, and emotionally manipulative content. The 3 questions that instantly reveal quantum manipulation. If you ever feel like something is influencing you, ask these 3 questions. 1. Am I reacting or am I choosing? If your response is immediate and emotional, manipulation is likely involved. 2. Did I seek out this information, or was it presented to me? If the information found you first, it was placed in your field intentionally. 3. Does this perception benefit someone else more than it benefits me? If yes, there's an agenda attached to it. If any of these questions reveal manipulation, step back and reset your perspective. Now that you can see the mechanics behind quantum influence, here's how to apply it in your everyday interactions. Before reacting to news or media, ask, who benefits from my perception shifting in this way? When an emotional reaction is triggered, pause and disrupt the pattern. When given limited choices, generate a third option to break the probability suppression. Reduce exposure to algorithmic feeds designed to shape perception cycles. Actively reprogram your perception by consuming diverse, challenging perspectives. Once you integrate this approach, quantum influence will no longer operate undetected. Instead of being manipulated by unseen forces, you will become the one directing reality. Because at the highest level, the only true quantum force is the mind that refuses to be controlled. Now that you have this knowledge, you hold the single most powerful advantage against the systems of control. They rely on your unawareness. They depend on your passive compliance. But the moment you recognize quantum manipulation for what it is, it loses its power over you. From this point forward, you are no longer just another observer in someone else's quantum experiment. You are the one shaping the field. You are the one determining the outcome. And no system of control can override the will of a conscious, self-determined mind.